Presenting the Centennial class of the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame. The largest legend in Kentucky high school basketball history who still sits atop the record books in both single season and career scoring records, the king himself, Kelly Coleman, Wayland High School, 1956.
Wallace Wawa Jones is generally regarded as one of the greatest all-around athletes ever produced in Kentucky. Playing for the Harlan High Green Dragons, Wallace proved to be an all-state performer in basketball, football, and baseball.
A player who started at humble beginnings, who later became an integral figure not only on the state tournament team, but also in the desegregation movement in high school basketball in Kentucky. Clem Haskins, Taylor County, 1963. Known for her versatility and all-around talent, with career accolades including being named the Kentucky Miss Basketball and Kentucky Athlete of the Year, Clement Haskins, Warren Central, 1983. Known for his picture-perfect jump shot, which helped him win the state title his senior season with a 41-point performance in the title game, a three-time All-State selection, Cliff Hagan, Owensboro High School, 1949.
Most dominating centers in Kentucky high school history, Wes Unseld played for Louisville Seneca High from 1961 to 1964. His reputation as an outlet passer, rebounder, and defensive player is unequaled, and his record totals of 72 and 88 rebounds in the 63 and 64 state tournaments remain unchallenged.
With career accomplishments including 7 consecutive KHSAA Sweet 16 tournament appearances, the 1987 state title, and a 5-time Kentucky Coach of the Year selection, Coach Bobby Keith, Clay County, 1999. A coach who amassed 11 district, 6 region, and 3 state titles, who was twice named the state's Coach of the Year and the Coach of the Decade in the 1950s, Coach Ralph Carlisle, Lexington Lafayette, 1961. The first legendary coach during the resurgence of girls high school basketball, who guided the Cardinals to an unprecedented 73-game winning streak and a state title three-peat, Coach Roy Bowling, Laurel County High School, 1989. A well-rounded gentleman who became one of the greatest coaches in Kentucky basketball history, guiding his program to over 500 career wins, Coach S.T. Roach, Dunbar High School, 1965. Arguably the greatest athlete to ever play the game, a 2-time selection to the All-State and All-State tournament teams, a state champion, and a high school All-American, Darrell Griffith, Louisville Male, 1976. Known as an outstanding offensive phenom whose senior season outburst of 1,885 points still ranks atop the record books, Jerry Grigsby, McDowell High School, 1977. Known as one of the greatest scorers and rebounders in the game, a player who was named Kentucky's Mr. Basketball and an All-American honoree his senior season, Jim McDaniels, Allen County High School, 1967. A 4-sport letterman known for being one of the fastest and fiercest competitors of his era, Ralph Beard, Louisville Male, 1945. With career accolades including being named Kentucky's Mr. Basketball and an All-American his senior season, one of the greatest offensive forces in the game, Rex Chapman, Owensboro Apollo, 1986. A career which included a state tournament title and MVP honor, a 3-time All-State team selection, and Kentucky's Mr. Basketball his senior season, Richie Farmer, Clay County High School, 1988. A 2-time All-State selection, the Kentucky Mr. Basketball, and a KHSAA Sweet 16 champion, Alfred Butch Beard, Breckinridge County, 1965. A state tournament champion, Kentucky Mr. Basketball, and a high school All-American, Allen Houston, Louisville Ballard, 1989. A 2-time All-State team selection, as well as the Kentucky Mr. Basketball and state champion his senior season, Billy Ray Lickert, Lafayette High School, 1957. A standout player-turned-coach at his alma mater who guided his team to 14 region titles and 2 KHSAA state tournament championships, Coach Bobby Watson, Owensboro, 1980. One of the greatest basketball coaches in state history who won 2 state titles and currently ranks 2nd on the all-time wins list, Coach Howard Beth, Marshall County, 2010. A coach whose career accomplishments include 8 regional titles, the 1951 state title, and a 3-time selection as Kentucky's Coach of the Year, Coach Letcher Norton, Clark County, 1962. A pioneer in the desegregation movement in basketball who currently ranks 3rd on the state's all-time list in career wins, Coach William Keene, Louisville Central, 1958. One of the first standouts during the resurgence of girls high school basketball in the state and Kentucky's Miss Basketball her senior season, Donna Murphy, Newport High School, 1976. A crowd pleaser who was twice named to the All-State and All-State tournament teams, Howard Crittenton, Cuba High School, 1952. One of the greatest scorers, rebounders, and shot blockers in the game, who was a state tournament champion and MVP, the Kentucky Mr. Basketball, and a high school All-American, J.R. Van Hoos, Paintsville High School, 1998. One of the greatest offensive forces in the game, who currently ranks second on the all-time list with nearly 5,000 career points, Jamie Waltz Ritchie, Fort Thomas Highlands, 1996. A player best known for being ahead of his time with his finesse, skill, and impressive shooting abilities, Joe Falks, Catawba High School, 1940. An All-State Tournament, and Kentucky Mr. Basketball selection whose 127-point state tournament outburst propelled his team to the title, Johnny Cox, Hazard High School, 1955. A standout in northeastern Kentucky who helped guide his Tomcats to 2 appearances in the KHSAA Sweet 16 tournament with one ending in the title, Larry Conley, Ashland High School, 1962. A 3-time selection to the All-State and All-State tournament teams and a state champion in 1951, Linville Puckett, Clark County High School, 1952. A high school All-American, Kentucky Mr. Basketball, and a KHSAA state champion his senior season, Mike Casey, Shelby County, 1966. A 3-time All-State selection who led the Cardinals to the KHSAA Sweet 16 championship three-peat, Sharon Garland, Laurel County, 1979. A 3-time All-State tournament team, 2-time All-State team selection, and Kentucky's Miss Basketball, as well as an All-American her senior season, Beth Wilkerson Hammond, Paris High School, 1979. A tremendous talent whose career included a state tournament championship and state tournament MVP, a 3-time All-State tournament team selection, and Kentucky's Mr. Basketball, Chris Lofton, Mason County, 2004. A player-turned-coach at his high school alma mater who guided the Blue Devils to 8 KHSAA Sweet 16 appearances, including the state title in 1983, Coach Al Pruitt, Henry Clay, 1991. One of the greatest innovators and promoters of girls athletics during her 40-plus year career, the State Coach of the Year and State Champion in 1976, Coach Bunny Daughtery, Sacred Heart Academy, 1989. The face of the Panthers boys basketball team for over 3 decades, who has compiled nearly 900 wins at the program, Coach Dale Mabry, Pleasure Ridge Park. A top scorer in the state who led the Golden Tide to 3 consecutive KHSAA Sweet 16 tournament appearances, Corky Withrow, Central City, 1956. A 2-time Gatorade Kentucky Player of the Year, a 3-time KHSAA state champion, and the AP National Player of the Year in her senior season, Crystal Kelly, Sacred Heart Academy, 2004. A catalyst for the Maroons' back-to-back state tournament appearances and a selection to the All-State tournament team his senior season, Frank Ramsey, Madisonville, 1949. A 3-time All-State and 2-time All-State tournament team selection, as well as a high school All-American and Kentucky's Mr. Basketball, Jack Givens, Bryan Station, 1974. A phenomenal player who guided the Mustangs to 2 consecutive appearances to the KHSAA Sweet 16 tournament, John Oldham, Hartford High School, 1942. A 3-time All-State tournament team selection, a high school All-American, and a KHSAA Sweet 16 champion, Kenny Higgs, Owensboro, 1974. A state champion and state tournament MVP her junior year, a 2-time All-American, and the National Player of the Year in her senior season, Lisa Harrison, Southern High School, 1989. A 3-time selection to the All-State team and the Kentucky Mr. Basketball his senior season, Mike Redd, Seneca, 1963. A breakout star who was named the Kentucky Mr. Basketball and a high school All-American who led his team to the 1969 state title with a 44-point performance, Ron King, Central High School, 1969. A 2-time All-State tournament team selection, a state tournament MVP, and Kentucky's Mr. Basketball his senior season, Todd May, Virgie High School, 1982. A state tournament champion, 2-time All-State team selection, and the Kentucky Mr. Basketball, Vernon Hatton, Lafayette, 1954. A 2-time KHSAA All-State tournament team selection, as well as an All-American his senior season, Bobby Rasco, Davies County, 1958. A coach who amassed a stellar 85% career winning percentage, guiding his program to the state championship, and was the Kentucky Coach of the Year in 1947, Coach Earl Jones, Maysville, 1955. Known as the quickest thinking coach in America and one of a select group to guide 3 different programs to the KHSAA state title, Coach Jock Sutherland, Lafayette, 1979. Known as one of the most innovative coaches in Kentucky's history who transformed the full court press into an offensive weapon, Coach John Bill Trivett, Pikeville, 1960. A coach who guided one program for nearly 3 decades, transforming it into a state powerhouse and amassing over 800 wins in the process, Coach Ron Bevers, North Arden High School, 2013. One of the greatest shooters to hail from the mountains of eastern Kentucky, a 2-time first-team All-State selection, Dickie Prater, Pikeville, 1950. Known as one of the purest shooters in the state, a 2-time All-State selection, as well as Kentucky's Mr. Basketball his senior season, Jeff Mullins, Lafayette, 1960. A 2-time state tournament champion and MVP, as well as Kentucky's Mr. Basketball his senior season, Jermaine Brown, Fairdale High School, 1991. Kentucky's Mr. Basketball and a state champion his senior season, as well as a 2-time All-State tournament team selection, Jerry Thruston, Owensboro, 1972. Remembered for his high-arcing jump shot, a 2-time first-team All-State selection, as well as a parade All-American in his senior season, Jimmy Dan Connor, Anderson County, 1971. The Kentucky Mr. Basketball and a parade All-American in his senior season, as well as a 3-time All-State team selection, John Pelfrey, Paintsville, 1987. A 2-time All-State team selection, as well as Kentucky's Miss Basketball and an All-American her senior season, Lily Mason, Olmsted, 1981. A 3-time All-State selection who led his team to the state title, the gentle giant himself, Mike Silliman, St. Xavier High School, 1962. A great scorer and team player who has had tremendous success as a player and coach, Travis Ford, Madisonville, 1989. The floor general who guided her team to the state title and was named the Kentucky Miss Basketball in her senior season, Yukari Figgs, Scott County, 1995.
Winston Bennett led his Bulldog team through the early 1980s with tenacious rebounding and steady blue-collar workman-like play that would make him a crowd favorite at Male and later at the University of Kentucky. This wide-bodied 6'6" forward was fearless on the glass, and his leadership qualities were indispensable for both his teammates and his coaches.
Part of the greatest dynamic duo in the state and a 3-time selection to the All-State team, Bobby Turner, Male High School, 1976. A 2-time state tournament MVP, a leader in her school's KHSAA Sweet 16 championship three-peat, and the Kentucky Miss Basketball her senior season, Carly Omerod, Sacred Heart Academy, 2005. The winningest coach in Kentucky high school basketball history and a 2-time KHSAA Sweet 16 tournament champion, Coach Billy Hicks, Scott County High School. The coach of one of the most successful small schools in the state, amassing over 700 wins, 6 region titles, and the state title in 1943, Coach Pearl Combs, Hinman Settlement, 1972. A coach with tremendous success at multiple schools, the winningest coach in girls high school basketball history in the state, Coach Randy Napier, Perry County Central High School. Part of a family tree with tremendous coaching success who guided his Bulldogs to 2 consecutive KHSAA Sweet 16 titles, Coach Stan Harden, Fairdale High School, 1991. A 2-time All-State selection and the Kentucky Mr. Basketball in his senior season, one of the most beloved players in Kentucky basketball history, Darius Miller, Mason County, 2008. One of the winningest coaches in girls high school basketball history who guided her Valkyries to 3 consecutive KHSAA Sweet 16 titles, Donna Moyer, Sacred Heart Academy. Known for his unbelievable competitiveness, who became a successful player and coach, Donis Butcher, Mean Memorial, 1955. Known as one of the most tenacious rebounders and defenders in the game, a 2-time selection to the All-State team, Dwight Smith, Princeton Dotson, 1963. Known for his tenacity, toughness, and leadership as a player and coach, a 2-time All-State selection, Gene Rhodes, Male High School, 1946. The center of St. Roche's greatest teams, a first-team All-State selection his junior and senior seasons, George Wilson, Dunbar High School, 1964. A towering giant with formidable skill in the paint and a three-time first-team All-State selection, Harry Todd, Arlington, 1958. A leader on one of the greatest high school teams in history, a two-time first-team All-State selection, and the Kentucky Mr. Basketball his senior season, Jeff Lamp, Ballard High School, 1977. An outstanding guard who helped shape an Eastern Kentucky dynasty, guiding his team to 3 consecutive appearances in the KHSAA Sweet 16 tournament, Jim Rose, Hazard, 1967. One of the greatest big men in the history of Kentucky high school basketball, who would later become a high school All-American, Ralph Richardson, Russell County, 1958. A versatile player with tremendous skill at every position who helped guide his team to the state tournament his senior season, Tom Thacker, William Grant, 1959. Known as the smooth passing southpaw, as well as a strong leader and competitor, Bobby Washington, Dunbar High School, 1965. Known as a formidable foe with a physical brand of play who scored over 2,600 points in a single season, currently ranking second on the state's all-time list, Charlie Osborne, Flat Gap High School, 1957. One of the most decorated high school basketball coaches in state history who has won 3 KHSAA Sweet 16 championships, Greg Todd, Lexington Catholic, 2006. A great athlete turned Hall of Fame coach who guided his team to 6 appearances in the KHSAA Sweet 16 tournament, Coach Joe Harper, Wayne County, 1986. One of the only coaches to guide 2 different programs to the state title game, a 3-time State Coach of the Year selection, Coach Ray Bensel of Elizabethtown High School, 1978. The first legendary coach from the mountains of Eastern Kentucky who guided a small school to the state title in 1941, Coach Russell Williamson, Inez High School, 1952. One of the most prolific scorers in the game, currently ranking 19th in the state with over 3,100 career points, Darrell Carrier, Bristow High School, 1960. One of the most decorated athletes in Kentucky high school basketball history, including being named the Gatorade National Player of the Year, Aaron Boley, Elizabethtown, 2016. The floor general on one of Kentucky's greatest high school boys basketball teams, known for his selfless play and outstanding leadership, Harold Sargent, Ashland High School, 1961. One of the greatest scorers to hail from Southern Kentucky and an all-state team selection his senior season, Jack Upchurch, Wayne County, 1957. The greatest multi-sport athlete in the state in Kentucky's Mr. Basketball in his senior season, Kenneth Kuhn, Male High School, 1955. A decorated player who could do it all as a guard, a 2-time All-American selection, Kyra Elzy, Oldham County High School, 1996. A key contributor to a girls' basketball dynasty who helped guide the Cardinals to 3 consecutive KHSAA Sweet 16 championships, Lisa Collins, Laurel County, 1980. Arguably one of the most versatile offensive weapons in the game and a 3-time All-State first-team selection, Manuel Forrest, Moore High School, 1981. A leading contributor on one of the greatest girls' high school basketball teams in the state of Kentucky, Mary Taylor, Marshall County, 1987. Perhaps the greatest sharpshooter to hail from the coal mining regions of Eastern Kentucky, Phil Cox, Kaywood High School, 1981. Kentucky's Mr. Basketball in his senior season and a 2-time All-State selection, Robert Brooks, Richmond Madison High School, 1970. A 2-time All-State and All-State tournament team selection, arguably the greatest rebounder in the state, Valerie Owens, Butler High School, 1976. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, the Centennial class of the Kentucky High School Basketball Hall of Fame.